All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford gets into a heated verbal exchange about how these two are going to beat each other up when the fight does get made. And this fight is getting bigger and bigger, and I am loving the trash talking these two is talking. So, I'm gonna break it down to y'all. Let's talk about it in this video. King Jr. got another video for y'all. Please share that you like and subscribe to the channel, and also share the video to get all your latest boxing news. And before we start this video, I want to give a shout out to all the new subscribers that subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate y'all, and I'm going to continue to keep giving you guys the boxing news and be as neutral as I possibly can to give my fair statement. Now, I might be a little bit of a fanboy sometimes because I rock with my favorite fighter, and I'm sticking by my favorite fighter just like you guys stick by your favorite fighter. So, with that being said, Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. had a heated exchange on Twitter. You guys know Twitter is like probably the biggest platform for sports media and stuff like that to exchange some words. And Terence Crawford, he says that at Errol Spence Jr., look at this guy record though. That guy who's going to beat your ass in real life, not the guy you post for likes. So if you guys haven't checked out my last video about Bomac, Terence Crawford didn't like the fact that he was getting on his trainer Bomac, and Terence Crawford came out with this post I just read to you guys, and then Errol Spence Jr. replied back and says, I ain't gonna lie, 38-1 is still a great record. So Errol Spence Jr. said he gonna be the first one to put that loss on Terence Crawford resume, and I cannot wait for this fight to happen. This is arguably one of the biggest fights in the sport of boxing as it is. Well, we know that at the time before this was the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. It was Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. A lot of people thought that it was going to be a heavyweight match for Undisputed, and you guys know the whole scenario with Eddie Hearn turned down the fight and deal. I could go into the whole scenario, but I'm not going to do that. So we know that Terence Crawford is a very good fighter. I got nothing against Terence Crawford. I just feel like that Errol Spence Jr. is going to be successful at beating Terence Crawford. Like I said before, I feel like that the main reason I think Terence Crawford is going to have a major disadvantage is because when Terence Crawford was in his younger days, he was more effective than the orthodox stance within southpaw, and he was getting hit less. But now Terence Crawford seems to be less effective in orthodox stance and more effective in southpaw and stuff like that. So I could go into the scenario, but y'all just stay tuned for my prediction video that's coming up when the fight does get made and stuff like that. So I'm gonna read a couple more things these guys had to exchange and stuff like that. And Terence Crawford, he came back and says, I hope you're not on that yak, which he's talking about. Errol Spence Jr. was drinking at the time and stuff like that before Errol Spence Jr. stopped drinking and realized that boxing is more important to him and his family and stuff like that. Then Errol Spence Jr. Responded and says, it's all going to be fun and games, but when that bell ring, it ain't going to be funny. So Errol Spence Jr. is, like I said, he's not playing with Terence Crawford. He wants that Terence Crawford smoke, and he's going to get that Terence Crawford smoke. And I truly believe that Errol Spence Jr. will successfully beat Terence Crawford. Now, a lot of people feel like this fight is going to be big, just like Thomas Hearns versus Sugar Ray Leonard. We know that fight took place, I believe, on September 16, 1981. So that fight was legitimately 41 years ago. And wow, man, like time really fly by fast. Like I can't believe that fight really took that place that long ago. And I wasn't even really born back in the 80s. So with that being said, you know, I feel like Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford is going to create history. I believe whoever win, lose, or draw, they're going to have a nice payday. They're going to have a lot of stuff on the line. Well, either way it goes, I feel like that Terence Crawford is still a Hall of Famer. even if Errol Spence Jr. loses, I still feel like that Errol Spence Jr. is a Hall of Famer because these guys has proven themselves to be the best. Because we know Terence Crawford, he's already proven to be one of the best welterweights in the world because he got undisputed early in his career at 140 pounds. And we know that Errol Spence Jr. is one of the best welterweights in the world as well because Errol Spence Jr., a guy that went through so many injuries in his life, he simply just keep coming back. And even if Errol Spence Jr. had one of his worst performances or his bad days in the ring, he still whooped the guy's ass. So you got to give a lot of credit to these two guys. But in my stance, I feel like that Errol Spence Jr. And Terence Crawford, keep continuing to talk the trash, keep continuing to build the fight, keep continuing to train hard, do all sorts of stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that these two are really exchanging words and really start to promote the fight. Now, we need to see some contracts and stuff like that. Now, I know I ain't going to see the contract, but I'm saying we need to hear some news about some promoters or confirm that this fight is going to happen. Steven Espinoza, he said he's going to do whatever it takes to try to get this fight made with Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. I cannot wait to see this fight. But you guys know what it is. So Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. had to exchange some words on Twitter and stuff like that. And I feel like it's funny that Errol Spence Jr. says, I ain't going to lie, 38-1, still a good record. I mean, it's a good record. You might lose Crawford, but it's still a good record, Nah, but at the end of the day, guys, we just ready for this fight. So I'm going to break a little bit of detail down, I feel like that Errol Spence Jr., he's going to have a lot of advantages in this fight. Errol Spence Jr. is very fundamentally sound. He is rarely that he gets off code and he sticks to the code in boxing. He always stick to the basics of boxing. Errol Spence Jr. is not the most flashiest guy. And on the other hand, Terence Crawford, he's more of a flashy type of guy, versatile. He can look to outbox you, stay in the mid-range game, and continue to antagonize you and look here for the shot to get you out of there if he hurts you or whatever the case may be with Terence Crawford. So these guys have advantages. These guys have disadvantage. Like Terence Crawford has 74-inch arms, and Errol Spence Jr. has 72 arms. That would be Terence Crawford's advantage to have the reach. But the advantage that Errol Spence Jr. will have is Errol Spence Jr. He has the advantage to get his way on the inside. Even if you stick a jab in your face, even if you're a fundamentally sound boxer, Errol Spence Jr. is going to take that jab away. And, it's a lot of things. I could continue to go on about how Terence Crawford, if he goes in the mid-range to keep Errol at bay and neutralize Errol from getting on the inside, Terence Crawford could outbox and use his athleticism to get around Errol Spence Jr., body work and stuff like that. So this makes for a 50-50 fight. You guys know I'm riding with Team Man Down, Errol Spence Jr. all day, strap season. But I just can't wait to see the fight at the end of the day. So I ain't going to keep this video too long. I just want to let y'all know that these two have been talking trash for a minute now on Twitter. And I'm going to read this to you guys again. The main ones is Terence Crawford. Look at this guy record, though. That guy who's going to beat your ass in real life, not going to post for likes. Errol Spence Jr. Says, I ain't going to lie, 38-1 is a good record. So you guys can go check out the rest of it on Twitter. But, at the end of the day, I can't wait to see the fight. So let's make it happen. Let's put an end to the Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. because I want to see what's going to be next for these guys when these fight is done and sealed. It's in the history books. So let me know what you guys think. So with that being said, guys, it is what it is. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. This is your boy King Jr. I'm out of here. Peace.